Hey everyone. So I have some really exciting updates to talk about actually. I guess the first thing is that the bot is currently training at an 1188 rating. So that's where it's at right now. Last game it was actually up at 1215, except, it lost, so it dropped down a little bit. But basically the bot seems to be doing better than it ever has before, is what I'm getting from the benchmarks I've been running. And the way that I got it there was using that technique of sort of adversarial learning that I was talking about in one of my other videos. So, what I've been doing is pitting two different versions of the bot against each other and just having them train against each other. So, PPO bot 1 and bot 2. I abstracted some of the common functionality into a base class called PPO player. And so this has, the default like reward calculation, embedding a battle state, describing that embedding, and then the actual action to move function. And so the two ways that these bots are different currently, though, is that bot one is using some updated estimation functions. So these estimates include the effects of statuses on the Pokemon. And so for those of you who are familiar with, competitive Pokemon battling, you probably know this, but certain status effects actually do affect the stats of your Pokemon. So for example, now when we're calculating our damage, we take a look to see if our Pokemon is currently burned, because if a Pokemon is burned, its attack is roughly halved. In terms of what I previously was doing for determining whether a move would hit or not was using the accuracy of the move. But in truth, it's a lot more complex than that. So if they're frozen, they only have a 20% chance of using the move, or I guess of getting out of their freeze. So I've been waiting that. I guess honestly, maybe that should be 0.2 now that I'm looking at it. But anyway, so if they're paralyzed, there's a quarter chance that they're just paralyzed for that turn, so they won't hit. If they're asleep, there's roughly a 1/3 chance that they'll wake up and hit. And then if they are confused, there's roughly a 1/3 chance that they'll wake up from their confusion and hit. And now that I'm looking at this, honestly, I did almost all of these stats wrong because it should be a 1/3 chance that, for the accuracy here rather than 0.66. So that's the inverse. So I'll have to update that. But basically, incorporating these status effects is really helping the Pokemon to the Pokemon bot to learn how to behave better in certain situations. And so I've been training the bot against each other, and here I have 3 different benchmarks that I've run playing the bot who has the stats incorporated versus the bot who does not have the stats incorporated. So the one without the stats incorporated is player 2 in this case. Player 2 actually won after 100,000 training steps. I can't remember the margin. I want to say it was around 5% of the battles. So, something that could be determined by randomness, but also, yeah, it seemed like, generally speaking, though, as well, that the first bot, the one with the status logic incorporated into it, was learning better the more training it got. So at 200,000 steps, it finally beat, player 2, and at 300,000 steps, it beat player 2 a little bit more soundly. Still not by a huge margin, so I was really curious how this would train. And so I started training. Originally, the ELO was around 1,083, and we can see what it's at right now. So 1,168, it just lost 2 in a row, unfortunately. But basically, a lot of these matches have been very competitive, even when they've lost. Like this one, for example, honestly, it felt like the opponent had a pretty stacked team, and it still went down to the final Pokemon. And, not all battles are like that. There definitely are some that get away. There's been some cases of logic that I definitely know I still need to update, like if a Pokemon has water absorbed, for example. I've watched one Pokemon just continually hydro pump the Pokemon with water absorb. So clearly the bot needs to learn from that situation. But yeah, I think it's just really cool to see, the strategy of adversarial learning really helping, and the fact that the bot is doing better than it has before. So yeah, that's it for now. But yeah, I'll keep you guys posted with more updates.